Hi, this is Yucca with my third guide, discussion and video on Java development. And for this guide today, we're going to create a very basic, simple Java application to get you started with Java development. In the previous discussion and video, I discussed the type of applications that we can use Java for, and the application I'll be doing today is a very basic console-based application. Now, contrary to what typical applications do, which I've discussed in the previous video as well, is that typically the application takes some data as input and validates it, processes it as is required by the application, and produces output. Now, this console-based application I'll be doing today, it will simply produce output without any input, and the core concept behind what I'm doing today is just to show you how you approach Java development and what happens when we develop with Java, how we compile Java source code or code which we write as developers into bytecode, and how we launch our Java application, and how every Java file that we write has a structure, and I'll show you that structure. And I also wish to introduce you to a concept which may make it easier to understand the process of development. So, to start off with, picture yourself as a developer, as an author of a whole library of books, and the library of books essentially will eventually form your application, and there are certain rules in that authors must adhere to when writing books, like for example naming, numbering, chapters, pages, and so forth. And when we compile the code which we write as Java developers, you can picture the process of compiling the Java code as sending the book which you write, or the template or source code file, to a publisher where it is validated, and once it's validated it is ready to be read by the intended audience. Now, the Java virtual machine you can view as the reader of your intended book, and so forth. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is create a directory where to work from, and we're going to call it example, and we're going to place both our source code files and our compiled Java bytecode files within this directory. To do that, go into your example directory and create a new directory. Now, the files that we create as authors or as developers, we refer to these in Java as source code files or templates with regards to object-oriented programming. Java is an object-oriented language. We create templates or class files, and these are converted at runtime into objects. And just to get you a bit broader scope on object-oriented programming, basically with object-oriented programming we create templates, these become objects, and the ability to interact with objects allows us to represent data which we can use as state with regards to objects, and we can manipulate data, and we can alter the behavior of state, and we do this through functions or methods. That's with regards to jargon that is used in object-oriented programming. And you can think of state as data, and you can think of this as nouns in the real world, and methods and functions which modify the state and data of the application, you can think of these as verbs, and we'll get to that in future tutorials. Now, the first thing we need is a directory to work from, and we're going to place our Java source code files in a source directory, which I'm creating here within the example directory, and just go into that directory, copy the location, the address, and we're going to create an environment variable for the source code directory, which allows us to easily interact with it from the command prompt, because we'll be developing for now from the command prompt. Later we'll switch to an integrated development environment, which does a lot of the work that we'll be doing in this tutorial for us. But for now, if you hold in the Windows key and the R key to bring up the run option, then you can type in control, hit enter, then type in env in control panel, and we're going to add an environment variable for this account. Create a new one, and capital letters source, paste in what we copied, and select OK, and OK. And then we're going to add an additional directory within our example directory, and just go into the example directory, and we're going to create a directory where to place our compiled Java code, and these will become class files. When we create Java source code as developers, we place them in text files with a .java extension, and once they've compiled by the Java compiler, they become .class files. So we can create a directory here so that we can differentiate and separate our source code files from our class files. And if you just go into your classes directory like we did with the source code directory, you can copy the address, make sure it ends in .classes, and we're going to add an environment variable. So hold in the Windows key and the R key, type in control, hit enter, or go to your control panel, type in env, bring up your edit environment variable option for your account, and we're going to add a new environment variable. And the Java virtual machine, it will look for default for the location where to find your compiled Java files or your .class files based on an environment variable which you define as follows: class path in capital letters, and just a second, and you can paste in what you copied. And now, before we begin developing our first Java application, we're just going to make sure that the environment variables that we created are available to us from the command prompt. You need to open a new command prompt if you had one opened. We do that with a echo command, and you'll see that the source code, the environment variable, correctly references the source code directory. Let's do the same with a class path environment variable, and you'll see it references the correct location. So now we're ready to create our first Java source code file or template, or hypothetically speaking, our first book as part of our Java application library. And to do so, we're going to go to our example directory, go to our source code directory, and we can use a simple text editor like text document option in Windows, and we're going to choose a name as follows. Now the name that you choose here is very important, so whilst you're creating the name, you may as well Control A, Control C it just to copy it, and I'll explain to you why it's important in a second. Once you've named your file, you can go into it, and we're going to start off by typing in some words which may seem foreign to you. Now, the words that I'll be typing in here, they have significant meaning to the Java compiler, and basically remember that you can picture the Java compiler as the publisher of your book. And so when we use words like public and so forth, hypothetically speaking, perhaps you can view this as a chapter heading or as a page number and so forth with regards to the keywords that we use in that. Now the keywords that we use in Java development, they really have a specific, or they have significance to the Java compiler, which compiles your code into bytecode so that it's understood by the machine. And there's a multitude of keywords and so forth. But every Java template or every book, hypothetically speaking, that you create goes within a class definition as follows. Now the class keyword basically signifies that you're creating a Java template which can be used once it's been compiled to create Java objects out of. And the name that we define here must match the name that we chose for our file. You can picture this name as the book title for your book, and The book title has contents, or the template for that matter has contents, and the contents of the book get placed within two curly brackets. Now, because this is a very simple application, and every Java application needs a starting off point, and the starting off point is referred to by the Java virtual machine. Now, the Java virtual machine is basically pre-compiled Java code, and it looks for a function which has to be written as follows, and this starts and launches your Java application, and this method or function is placed within the file that you request to be run when launching your Java application from the command prompt. I'll show you all of this in this tutorial. Just bear with me, it takes a bit of time for this first tutorial. So, the method or the function that we create has to be created or defined as follows, and we'll get to all of what we're doing in the next couple of tutorials. And basically what we're going to instruct this application to do is print out what I'm typing over here. Hello YouTube and Java. Now, within methods, with regards to programming, when we define functions, within functions we define statements, and statements basically are instructions and a step-by-step process of what the application needs to what the application needs to achieve, and once these statements are finished, then the next statement gets read, and so forth. Now, every Java application needs a main function which is created as follows, and functions also have bodies, just like the book cover that we had for our Hello YouTube book. The Hello YouTube book is defined by the name here, and hypothetically speaking, whatever goes between the curly brackets here of the book forms the content of the book. The method that we're creating, or the function that we're creating here, you can think of this as a list of the chapters in your book which need to be read by the Java virtual machine, and these are provided in a step-by-step sequence or procedure for that matter, which instruct your Java virtual machine on how to run your application. And once all the statements within this method and function are completed, provided there are no errors in your Java application, then your Java application will close and finish as expected. Now, the main method which launches the Java application, it's defined, the body of that method, and the statements themselves, much like the book content, go within two brackets as follows. And within this body we can define statements or instructions on what to do. We can define several instructions and statements and so forth. And once all of them have executed as is listed from top to bottom, then once they've all completed, our application should exit without problems. Now, the statement we'll be using here is a statement, or it accesses the Java API or the development kit, and basically what we're actually doing now is we're asking for a book from the Java library which is written for us from the developers of Java, and we're requesting for a specific book and so forth. And we'll get to this, and it will become clearer as we go through these tutorials. And we're requesting for the system book, which allows us to interact with the system, and we're requesting data in that system template or that system book, which directs us to the output device of the computer, and then we're going to ask for it to print out the following message to the screen. Hello YouTube and Java, and every statement in Java, which, remember, statements go in between the method body, which is what I'm highlighting there, those two brackets, and functions, and the main function or method which launches your Java application goes within your book, hypothetically speaking, which is defined by the opening and the curling, opening and closing bracket, and so forth. Now every statement that we place in a method in Java has to end with a semicolon, and just make sure everything's correct here. And it looks like everything's ready here. So the last thing we're going to do, we need to save this as a .java file. Because we're using text editor in Windows, you need to choose Save As, and you need to ensure that you have .java as an extension for the file, and you need to double quote everything. So make sure that hello YouTube.java is double quoted, and save it, and you can close it. And just to verify, if you go into your source code directory, you should have a hello YouTube file with a .java extension. Now the next process to get you done with this is we need to compile our Java code, and we do so using the javac command. Now when we interact with entities or executables from the command prompt, usually we can specify flags or arguments which instruct those executables to behave in a specific manner. Now the javac executable, you can instruct it to send compiled Java code to a destination directory as is follows, by using the -hd flag, and because we defined class path environment variable, we wish to have our Java code sent there, and the next argument is the source code file which we wish to compile, and conveniently, because we defined environment variables, we can access this using the environment variable, the source environment variable. Hello YouTube.java, the file name that we chose, and just a sec. So we have an error here in our code here. I'll just go and finish that quickly. I forgot an identifier in the main method. In other words, the main method that I wrote in my source code directory is inaccurate. I'll go and fix it for you quickly, because it's very important you understand that every Java application needs to have a starting off point, and it has to be correctly defined here. And I forgot an identifier here. I'll get to that in the next tutorial. But anyway, I think this should remedy the problem, and we're going to try and compile our code. And before I do that, I just want to verify with you that the classes directory here is currently empty. Note that it's empty, but once we've compiled our Java code, and once we've compiled it, you'll see that a class file gets put into the classes directory. So we executed the javac command successfully, there weren't any errors, and if we go into our example classes directory here, you see that we have a hello YouTube class file. Class files are loaded by the Java virtual machine. They become objects at runtime, and because we have this class file located in our classes directory, and because the classes directory is configured as the environment variable for our class path, which is used by the Java virtual machine, we can now run our Java application using the Java command as follows: hello YouTube and hello YouTube and Java, which is exactly the message that we created in our Java source code file. In fact, let's go and modify it just so that you see what happens. We can add an additional statement to our main method, and so we go to our .java file, and let's copy the message or the statement that we put into our main method, and let's just paste it again, and let's just add again here. So now we'll see 2 lines of output in our standard output device, and this also verifies with you that this main method basically signifies everything that needs to be done by the application, statement by statement, in other words line by line, and once each line has finished being processed, your Java application is ready, or is finished, and exits as expected, provided there are no errors in your code. So we're going to recompile the Java file using the Java C with -hd flag as follows, and then we're going to launch the Java application again, and you'll see we get numerous lines of output here, and hello YouTube Java again, and this verifies with you that we have our first Java application up and running, and it shows you how to compile Java code into bytecode, and it introduces you to a concept of how you can picture yourself as a developer, where you write essentially books, and all these books that you write, they form a library, and you can view this library as an application. And when we compile our Java code, you can think of this as basically sending your book to a publisher to be checked for errors and so forth, like the error that I got here in the command prompt, which indicated to me that something was wrong with the grammar and so forth of my book or my code and so forth. Anyway, that's the third video for the series of videos I'm doing on Java. Thank you for watching.